Your Eye on Annapolis daily news brief keeps you informed about what's happening in Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, and Maryland. Local news, local sports, local events, local opinion, and, of course, local weather. Your Eye on Annapolis daily news brief starts now.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. This is John Frenaye, and this is your Eye on Annapolis daily news brief. This is sort of a story that's evolved since last May, but on Tuesday, May 19th, the Anne Arundel County Police Department responded to the 1100 block of Winterson Road in Linthicum Heights, Maryland, for an assault. When they arrived, they found Carol Windsor, who reported that her daughter had thrown a clock at her head, pulled her to the ground, pulled her hair, kicked her, and ran her over with a wheelchair. She was transported to a local hospital for treatment of her injuries and 5 days later did succumb to her injuries. At the time she was transported to the hospital, the daughter was charged with 3 counts of second-degree assault. And after the results of the autopsy came back, the medical examiner said that the cause of death was cardiovascular disease complicated by the assault, with the manner of death being homicide. The county police did obtain a warrant for the arrest of her daughter. She's been identified as a 46-year-old female from the 1100 block of Winterson Road, and she was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter, and first-degree assault in regards to the death of her mother. The daughter has been incarcerated in an out-of-county facility since the incident. They have sent a detainer over there, and she will be extradited back to Anne Arundel County. The police are asking anybody that may have any information, despite the fact that it is somewhat of an old case, to give them a call at 410-222-4731. And again on the crime front, last night, Alderman Fred Paone hosted a town hall meeting at the First Baptist Church on West Washington Street in Annapolis in response to the shooting that killed a man and wounded 3 others early on Sunday morning. And honestly, I'm going to say it's just like a lot of the others. And I don't mean to say that to be trite, but the alderman was the MC, the mayor, the chief, the clergy, and community activists all said that this was unacceptable to have this kind of violence in the community. I wholeheartedly agree. What stood apart on this one was that many Annapolitans that have lost their children to violence stood up and spoke. It was an emotional hour as these folks poured out their hearts, poured out their pain, and we also heard from the parents of the young man that was killed on Sunday night. I do hope that the elected leaders are listening because some of the stories are absolutely heartbreaking, and disturbingly, some of the other stories that other people mentioned were very unbelievable at the lack of response from the city and the police department to their concerns. And here's some new math for you from Anne Arundel County schools. Yesterday on a media call, we learned that 69.7% of the school staff want to return when classes open again in November. Yet Ray Leone from the Teachers Union says the majority of them don't want to return. So who's right? Who wants to go back and who doesn't? As for the kids, 29.4% of the families have elected for hybrid learning beginning early November. 36.9% have elected to have virtual learning through this semester. And 33.7% have elected for virtual learning for all school year. Now, that 33.7% does also include those parents that did not respond to the request to make a selection. The school district made that selection for them. They went the safest way with a 100% virtual experience for the entire year. And yesterday morning, Governor Hogan announced that he has a plan. This is a plan to distribute a vaccine to Marylanders as soon as one becomes available. As expected, and as probably is the case in all states, it is going to be a phased-in distribution. Phase 1 is going to focus on priority groups to receive the vaccination, and Phase 2 will have more of the wide-scale general population. Of course, still, dates are unknown. Phase 1, you could expect frontline first responders, healthcare workers, staff and residents of nursing homes, long-term care facilities, and assisted living facilities, essential workers, public safety, education, and staff in congregate housing units. Phase 2 would not begin until there was availability of the COVID-19 vaccine, of course, and notification by the CDC and state authorities that the general public can begin because there is a sufficient supply. You can go to eyeonannapolis.net, see a copy of the draft plan, and as we wait for all this to gel up, the Maryland Department of Health is in the process of actively recruiting and enrolling healthcare providers, health departments, occupational health providers, and pharmacists across Maryland to administer the vaccine and to be sure that we have enough people to actually do the vaccines. The other little glitch that we have is that these vaccines are very temperature sensitive and will need to be stored and handled correctly. We've heard that it is a very low temperature, and that may be a problem problem. Currently, the CDC does not have any guidelines for that. They are currently developing storage and handling guidelines for vaccines. So until that comes out, we don't know what we need to do to make sure that we store all these vaccines. So it does look like Maryland is moving ahead. Good to know there is a plan. Again, it is a draft plan. It is subject to change. And obviously, all this is predicated on the availability of a vaccine. And some good news for shoppers and the Annapolis Town Center. Offenbacher's Home Escapes has moved in and they've opened. Their hours are Saturday from 10 to 5, Sunday from 12 to 5, and Monday through Friday from 10 to 6 p.m. They have moved into the space that used to be occupied by Great Gatherings, and you will remember earlier this spring, Great Gatherings just closed and went away and actually left a lot of people in the lurch. It is located next to the Our House Furniture Store, and that's a good thing that the town center is starting to get some more people coming in there. And finally, just a little bit of housekeeping. I've changed the bump. Some said it was too Seinfeldish. Some said it was like a cheap 1970s porn movie. I don't know. I'd have to go see one. Well, how's this one? There are also some minor tweaks to the Daily News Brief as well, but they're probably more on the technical end. And what I'm also going to do is to start to tease some of our upcoming bonus podcasts so you can sort of get that on the radar to find out which ones you may want to listen to or not. A little bit later on today, we're going to be sitting down with Dick Franio, who is the owner of the Boatyard Bar and Grill, as well as Stephen Rice, who is the city's economic development manager. We're going to talk about how Annapolis handled the COVID pandemic as far as business goes, and also to Dick Franio, how the hell he managed to stay in business with the type of business that he is doing and the amount of business he is doing. He is the poster boy for working the way through this. I've tried to go to the Boatyard several times, and a lot of times I've been turned away because there's been a huge line to get in. That will be really interesting. We're also going to get their thoughts on how the business community is going to deal with COVID going through the winter and into the spring. All right, that does wrap it up for us today. Please make sure you're checking out eyeonannapolis.net throughout the day for updates to these stories and more. If you want to check out the governor's draft plan for the vaccination distribution, we've got that on there as well. If you are someplace you can leave us a rating or a review, please do that. Make sure your friends, family, and colleagues all know how to get a hold of us. Other than that, you need to hang tight. We've got George Young with your local DC MDVA weather forecast. He is standing by and will be here in just 1 minute. But first, you need to listen to Rick Peters from Solar Energy Services.
Hello, energy consumers. This is Rick Peters, president of Solar Energy Services. Have you been looking for ways to save money recently? Maybe you should consider solar energy for your home. Or are you waiting for the technology to get cheaper? If so, how long are you going to wait? Today's solar costs less than 20% of what it cost 10 years ago. But while solar prices have declined every year, so have the financial incentives. Bottom line, if you wait for cheaper solar, you're also waiting for lower incentives. Take my home, for example. My solar system was installed in 2010, and it's been paid off for almost 5 years, and I no longer have to buy any electricity for another 15 to 20 years. If I waited for cheaper solar, I'd still be paying an electric bill. At Solar Energy Services, we have thousands of satisfied customers who are sure glad they didn't wait. So what are you waiting for? Sunshine's a wasted. Call us today for a free solar design at 410-923-6090 or on the web at solarsaves.net.
Sunshine, sunshine, nothing else can make me feel so fine.
When you live near Annapolis, you know how fickle the weather can be. So you need a truly local forecast that's accurate and reliable. Forecast right here in Annapolis. DCMDVA weather is not just for today, but for the rest of the week and the weekend too. Now here's George Young of DCMDVA weather with the weather outlook for today and beyond.
Hey everyone, this is George with DCMDVA weather, and this is your Eye on Annapolis forecast for Wednesday, October 21st. It was a slow start yesterday with AM mist and fog, but skies cleared and temps warmed as expected, and that exact scenario is very possible again today, with PM highs up in the 75 to 80 plus degree range across Anne Arundel County. Tons of sun and more 70s to near 80 on Thursday before nice days on Friday and Saturday, with highs more 70 to 75 degrees for afternoon highs for the Annapolis region, with cooler temps and maybe even some rain showers coming Sunday as a cold front moves through from the west with highs only in the low to mid 60s. Okay, that's it for today. This is George Young of DCMDVA weather. Make it a great day out there. Stay healthy and be safe, and be sure to get our free app on all of your devices by searching DCMDVA weather in the Apple or Google App Store, and also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and use our website each day at dcmdvaweather.com. so you can always stay weather informed.
Annapolis may be Maryland's state capital, but it's also the sailing capital of the world. And whether you call Naptown home or are just planning a visit, a cruise on the Annapolis Maritime Museum's newly restored skipjack, the Wilma Lee, is a perfect opportunity to sit back, relax, and let the wind carry you across the water. Whether you're looking for front row seats to the Wednesday night sailing races, a guided sailing heritage tour, or an evening cruise to enjoy the extraordinary sunsets over the Chesapeake, a cruise aboard the historic Wilma Lee is the perfect way to connect the bay through both cultural and ecological lenses. The Annapolis Maritime Museum is making sure all safety protocols are undertaken, including social distancing and requiring masks while boarding. And the boat is open air, allowing plenty of space to socially distance. Tickets are available at amaritime.org. Private cruises are also available. Visit amaritime.org for more information.
You've been listening to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief. Tell your friends and colleagues, this is the podcast where you can keep up on the latest with what's going on in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. And don't forget about our website, eyeonannapolis.net, where you can find even more information. And make sure you follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Eye on Annapolis. This Daily News Brief podcast comes to you every Monday through Friday at 6 a.m.